Delivered straight to you. Watch the news leader, WDAY News.
Recreational marijuana in Minnesota comes after years of advocating.
News you can trust from the most experienced team in the region. On and off the field with expert coverage and analysis.
Swung on and missed. Oral Roberts is the Summit League Tournament champions.
WDAY News.
You bet your life.
You seriously asking me this question, Jay? Coney Island. What are we doing over here?
Boosting the economy.
Yeah, give me that money.
Every weekday.
I'm going to give it to you like an Italian uncle. Here you go. You get yourself a little something there. There you go. Right there.
Weekdays at 3:30 p.m. You're watching WDAY Extra. Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing. Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the halfway home edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, Inforum.com on the first day of June 2023. Yes, we are halfway done with 2023 beginning today. It also means we're in the midst of like 8 straight days of 90, which I'm no meteorologist. There's no doubt about that. But if I'm not mistaken, that makes it a heat wave. So it's great. We went from, 9 months of winter to now 9 straight days of 90. Wouldn't have it any other way. We couldn't have a day of, 75. Enjoy that. Guess not. That's where we're at. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mike on a Thursday morning. A busy day for those that follow spring sports, play spring sports in the state of North Dakota. This is actually the busiest day on the athletic calendar for high school sports in the state. 6 state tournaments beginning in various locales around the state, which we'll get to in a second. But first, the bigger news today. The biggest news today. June 1, 1953. Pretty important day for those of us that work inside this building, those that have worked inside this building. June 1, 1953 was the day that WDAY television signed on the air. In the evening, DAY radio had been a thing for the better part of 30 years. But television had not. And we have some great historical artifacts, literally, upstairs in our building. The old cameras that we used to use. Saw that on my first day here back in September of 2006. And to be a very, very tiny part of the history of this place, it's a neat deal. So, we had Kev on the show on Friday who's celebrating 40. Dana Mock is celebrating 40. John Wheeler at 38. We have one of our master control operators, Tim Stoffel. He's been here for 56 years. 56. 56 out of the 70. Think of that. Just wrap your mind around that. It's amazing. So even for the people that have been here for 3 months to, 30 years, and there is some tremendous people you do not see on camera every day that have been here for 30 plus years as well. There's a reason for that. It's a fantastic place to work. Even for the people that have come through here for a couple years, I think they would verify that. And I'm not saying that as we're on the air. I'm just telling you it's a unique deal. How unique is it? How old is it? if for those of us that in the television news industry, you know the call letters of a TV station actually are identifiable by where you are geographically located. Normally, everything east of the Mississippi River has a W in front of it, right? If you think of television stations from here to Maine are W whatever, and west of the Mississippi are K, outside of a couple originals like KDK and Pittsburgh, which was the original that signed on. WDAY was on so early that they had that grandfathered in, basically, that they've been on the air for that long, 70 years today. That's why it's such an outlier, this part of the world, in terms of call letters. Learned that, didn't know that. Got that maybe first or second day on the job. And you're going to see some fantastic stories highlighting. I know Kev teased a little bit when he was on the show on Friday. I think that starts tonight. You're going to see it represented graphically on our newscast. I'm not sure if we're going to integrate it here on Hot Mic, but it's pretty cool stuff. So happy birthday to WDAY, and for all of our loyal viewers that tune in every single night to watch our newscasts. And having done that for the better part of 13 years, my first 12, 13 years I worked here, it is a very dedicated viewership, and we appreciate that to the nth degree. So I wanted to make sure we started our show with that today. It's pretty cool stuff. So happy birthday to WDAY today. 70 years on the air. It's cool stuff. Lots to get to. We mentioned it is the busiest day on the North Dakota sporting calendar, and they got a blazing day to do it. Second time in 3 years this has happened. 2 years ago, 2021, I think we were in the hundreds for 3 straight days. So at least we don't have that. It's just the low 90s that we'll have coming up here over the next couple of days as we're going to crown champions in Class A and B baseball and softball. So there's 4. Girls soccer and girls tennis all happening at the same time. Fargo's going to be busy because they'll have Class A softball up at NDSU. We got Class A baseball in West Fargo and soccer here in town. Minot is hosting Class B baseball and softball. Grand Forks has tennis this weekend. I've already made my plea on trying to space this out. Now it's just about enjoying the weekend, and I hope for people that will watch our newscast, they will at least appreciate. We'll try to get to as much as we can. Because when you schedule 6 freaking tournaments at the same time, it's pretty hard for anybody to get coverage. Okay? That's all I'll say. We're going to visit in Class A baseball in just a minute. Speaking of baseball, the Minnesota Twins wrapping up their series last night with the Houston Astros, world champs, after another offensive game where they went to sleep. Rocco Baldelli didn't pull any punches here. He benched Carlos Correa. He benched Byron Buxton. The two alpha dogs of the Twins did not play last night. Royce Lewis got his first day off. So none of those guys in the lineup last night against Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown, if you don't know, one of the up-and-coming pitchers in Major League Baseball. And the Twins said, we don't care. The Twins' offense erupted last night. Donovan Solano gets them started with a 2-run single. Alex Kirilloff goes the opposite way to score. Michael A. Taylor was a 3-0 Twins lead in the third inning. Brown didn't even make it out of the 5th. Ryan Jeffers comes up with the bases loaded and cracks this to right center. That'll hop the wall for a ground rule double. Alex Kirilloff and Kyle Farmer were scoring. It's a 5-0 lead. That Solano guy up again. Unstoppable. Wraps this one off the wall and left. That would score 2 runs. He drove in 4. Louis Varland was the man last night. Strikeout here to end the 7th. Goes 7 innings, allows 4 hits, no runs. Strikes out 5. And the Minnesota Twins take the season series from the Astros. You remember they won 2 of 3 at Target Field back in April. Now they win 2 of 3 here in Houston to wrap up May with an 8-2 win last night. And you see it, all the run producers last night, not the guys you would count on. Solano, Jeffers, Taylor was on base 3 times. Varland was great. Only threw 86 pitches. I actually was a little disappointed he didn't come out for the 8th inning, especially considering Jorge Lopez melted down in the 8th inning. He didn't get anybody out. He faced 4 guys, gave up 2 home runs, hit a guy, and walked a dude. Not sure what happened to him. Brock Stewart came in, struck out the side, calmed things down, and the Twins get their 29th win of the season. As you look, as they now start June, 2 games up on Detroit, 3.5 games up on the Guardians. Of course, Cleveland will start a monstrous 4-game set with the Twins tonight at Target Field. There's no rest for the weary. A night game, fly back late last night, get in at the, crack of dawn, and then have to come back to the ballpark and play. I know they're professionals, but that's a tough turnaround. The Twins will send Pablo Lopez to the mound tonight against Tanner Beebe. Will get the start for the Guardians. Again, Cleveland finds pitchers. They just do. It's remarkable. We were visiting about that yesterday with Dick Bramer on the show. They can give up the kind of guys that they have and continue to find pitchers like that. So that is game 1 of a monstrous 4-game set. That game, as we know tonight, is on Bally Sports North. We'll get to that in a second because there is more, I don't know, new developments. There are developments on the television side of things. Because a story that we've been following for a bit obviously has culminated to a head with Diamond Sports Group and Bally Sports North. Before we get to that, I wanted to show, because this is likely going to happen. I can't imagine it doesn't. So we know the Padres have already had their rights go back to Major League Baseball. Bally Sports San Diego said, screw it, we're not paying it. And so their broadcast rights have reverted back to Major League Baseball. I wanted to show graphically, this is what MLB did last night. Now, the game looks the same, but this is the first broadcast that was produced by Major League Baseball. So the score bug is a bit different. It looks like what the MLB Network one is. You obviously see there's no more Bally Sports North or Bally Sports logo up in the top right-hand corner. The broadcast, the announcers were still the same. So if you watch Padres games, I don't know how many do around here. Don Orsillo is the longtime voice of the Padres, one of the great play-by-play guys around, along with Mark Grant, who does a great job. The Padres broadcasts are actually one of the tops in baseball. It looks different but sounds the same, if that makes sense. It was on a third alternate channel, I think, for those of us that have DirecTV. I think it was on 694-3. That's what you can expect if this happens with the Twins, either later today or even tomorrow. If this judge in Houston decides to side with Major League Baseball and not Diamond, that's what you can expect. That the same announcers are going to be there. For them, I mean, broadcast, like play-by-play wise, like sideline reporters, and that I don't know. I believe they work for Bally. They do not work for the team, which provides an awfully gray area moving forward here. You know, the Wild and the Timberwolves have basically 4 months to figure this out. But the Twins, this is happening on the fly. And it's not just them. There's 4 other teams that are involved in this. Guardians are one of them, too. I mean, literally, you could have the whole Minnesota, and granted, only 2 of the 4 games are going to be produced locally because Friday night's game is on Apple TV, and then Saturday's game is on Fox National. So this could, roughly only 2 of the games happen, but it's the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Twins, and the Guardians are all in the same boat here. And it is I'm sure for some, they're like, just show me where the game is. Just tell me where it is. That's what I'm telling you. We may not know. But if like you have DirecTV, it might be like a 668-3. That the games are normally, Bally's channel is 668. So it might be on like a 668-3 or a -4. Something like that is where you're going to find. For Midco and Sparklight, I don't know. I hope that they are as forthright as they can be about information on that. I just wanted to read one quote that from the testimony that happened yesterday in this trial that's going on in Houston. Because the guy that runs Diamond basically went to Rob Manfred, and this is what he said. He says, well, unfortunately, sometimes, this is Manfred saying, sometimes, unfortunately, people want things they're not going to get, and you're not getting these rights. And the chairman of Sinclair, who owns Diamond, said to Manfred, so let me tell you what's going to happen. I put $2 billion into the purchase of these regional sports networks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this going long enough until I get my $2 billion out. And then I'm going to start squeezing your clubs to take their rights fees down in order to make sure that I stay profitable in the regional sports network business. And if they don't agree to that, I'm going to put the entity into bankruptcy, and then I'm going to selectively reject contracts. And that's exactly what he did with the Padres, just walking away from their deal, which I guess Chapter 11 allows that. And now these next 4 teams are up. It's just, I know we're talking billionaires versus billionaires here, folks, but that is just, we're the ones that suffer on this. We just want to watch the games, and this is going to get messy, and it could happen today. Today or tomorrow, what we're hearing for the judge to rule on this. They met for 9 hours. 9 hours of testimony. They actually shut the air conditioning off in the courtroom to finally adjourn for the night in Houston. Messy deal. Busy show on tap for us here today. In just a couple minutes, we'll visit with Wahpeton baseball coach Andy Lunsetter from the Diamond at Young Field in West Fargo. They made history last weekend, winning their first EDC tournament championship. They are the #1 seed out of the East. They'll open up play here in a couple hours' time. They're about to take batting practice. Andy's going to join us in just a few minutes from West Fargo. At 10 o'clock, Chris Howell will join us, Moorhead Country Club head professional, in advance of the Red River Amateur that's coming back to Moorhead Country Club at the end of this month. WDAY Extra, of course, will be the home for all 3 days of tournament coverage for the 3rd consecutive year. We'll get an update on the field. Everything I've heard is that the biggest field that they've had yet. And I hope it's not 90 degrees for the 3 days we have of tournament coverage. But Chris is going to give us the lowdown on who's going to be playing this coming year at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, longtime Perham boys basketball coach who just resigned and now the new men's basketball coach at MSCTC in Fergus Falls, Dave Cresap, will join us at 10:35 about stepping away from the high school game and heading into the college game. That's coming up before we say goodbye on this Thursday. So a lot to get to here over the next 2 hours. We'll take a break. Hot mic off and rolling here on this Thursday morning. We're back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, Sioux Falls Live at Inforum.com.
Cameron Hall is a hit, taking daytime talk by storm.
You get inspiration, you get hope, you get winning.
And on the next Cameron Hall, from dishwasher to owner. At just 18, she used her college savings to buy the restaurant she worked in. Plus, he's the big brother making good on a big promise to help his sibling become a movie star.
On the next Cameron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
Somebody has to stand up for victims.
Detective Stabler, my partner, Detective Benson.
It took a lot of courage to get up on that stand.
It's not gonna ever be able to hurt you again.
I promise you, I'll protect you.
Weekdays at 12 p.m.
You took my father. Somebody's gonna pay for this.
There's no story more surprising than a real-life Dateline mystery.
Probably a pretty ugly crime scene.
Follow every twist and turn 5 times a week.
The chase is on.
With Dateline.
Weekdays at 1 p.m.
In this job, you take your eye off it for 1 second. People can die.
Don't think, just do it.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter.
Did a great thing today.
It's all because of you.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. and 12:05 a.m.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in North Dakota. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the NDHSAA.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day we encounter people who are having the worst day of their entire lives.
Does it get any easier?
Nope.
It takes a certain kind of person to run towards danger rather than run away from it.
Why is this job so important to you?
Growing up, I never saw any heroes who looked like me.
And that's what a hero looks like.
Help is on the way.
Sundays at 8 p.m.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me dear, tell me you are mine. I'll be yours through all the years, till the end of time. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfilled. For my darling, I love you, and I always will.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on a rather warm Thursday. My good buddy Brad Anderson texted me during the commercial break. It was 100 degrees in Jamestown 2 years ago. I've never been that hot in my life. Yeah, well, here we go again with 6 state tournaments happening at the same time as you look at the Class A baseball bracket with games about to begin in about 2 hours' time. The number 1 seed out of the East is the Wahpeton Huskies for the first time earning that distinction after winning the EDC baseball tournament on their home diamond. They'll match up with Bismarck Legacy coming up, followed by Century and Cheyenne, Mandan and North, and capped off by West Fargo and Jamestown. It's our pleasure to welcome back to our show Wahpeton baseball coach Andy Lunsetter. His team, literally, as we were in commercial break, the bus pulling up to Young Field, the guys getting off. It's great to see you again. Congratulations on what had to be just kind of a magical weekend. Is that the best way to describe how last weekend went?
Yeah, I think that's a great word. I mean, as I was telling you, it was, I won't say it was the goal, but it was a goal for us to get back to that game and to try to win an EDC championship this year, and to do that at home at our home field at John Randall was just really something special for these kids. We got 8 seniors this year, been playing together for a long time, and the home crowd really showed up in support all weekend. Can't thank them enough, and it was just a fantastic weekend for us.
I want to talk about the game here in a second, but take me back, Andy, to last Friday, the win against Cheyenne. They're the 2-time defending state champs. What was that like to have that kind of win?
Yeah, I think it's a program building win for us. Hopefully, as I said, we had a lot of people show up A lot of young kids, a lot of aspiring baseball players out there to see that game. And that was kind of a revenge game for us. That we lost to Cheyenne in the championship last year. And we kind of had that one earmarked. We were happy to have a chance to play them again. They clipped us in the first game this season. So to be able to see them in that game and to find a way to complete that victory against those guys was just, again, something special for us as a team this year on our way to winning the EDC championship.
How do I get one of those baseball hats? Those are sweet. How do I get one of your hats? Those are
these hats right here.
Man.
I have an extra one of these hats sitting at home. I'd be happy to send you one down.
We'll do it for our set, man. Those are fantastic. So you get that one.
You bet.
What was the mood, I guess, Saturday when you're playing West Fargo? Were they loose? What was for the EDC championship?
Yeah, again, I can't overstate the experience of this group. It's a team that's been together for a long time, played a lot of baseball games. All the kids play in the summertime too. We have a great collaboration with our summer program. And you just, again, you can't overstate the experience. We were able to get a lead early in that game, like had kind of been a theme for us here going down the stretch. And we had held it for most of the game, and then, we talked about staying loose. We talked about, we were up 4-3 going into the bottom of the seventh as we were the away team. And we gave up one run in that inning, and you kind of saw us deflate just for a second. And we talked about, hey, let's keep your head up. This, it's 4-4. It's, West Fargo found a way to load the bases with 2 outs. So the winning run was at third base. We brought in Riley Timian, who's a guy who doesn't actually pitch a lot for us. And we just talked about, hey, we just got to throw strikes here, and let's see if we can make this guy get himself out. Riley comes up with a huge strikeout to end that inning, and we come back and find a way to load the bases ourselves with no outs. We put up 3 runs then in the top of the 8th inning, and Riley comes back in and shuts it down in the bottom of the 8th. And it was just pure excitement after that. It was, again, like I said, experience counts, staying loose matters. We got down for just a second, but we didn't let it keep us down. We talk a lot about resiliency and perseverance, and that was just awesome.
The boys knew, Andy, what they'd done, that they made history. Did you have to tell them that?
Oh, yeah, we talked about it afterwards. No, I don't think they necessarily knew that. But, we've had some good teams in Wahpeton before. We've been in that game a few different times, and we're never able to complete the tournament championship before. So, again, like we talked about, doing that at home and for the first time in school history, I picked up my phone about 45 minutes after that was all done. And, just messages from all the coaches in the school and from all the community members. And it was, it took some time to get back to everybody, but we just really appreciate all the support.
Pretty impressive week in Wahpeton with the science softball team winning the national championship and you guys doing this. This is pretty high times here for the last 6 days.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic. My wife is the head tennis coach for girls. We just qualified our first girl for a long time. She took the 4th seed at the EDC tournament that same weekend. And then our girls softball team just won again, 2 more games. So they're in the final 3 in their section in Minnesota. It's Breck Wap together.
Yep.
So they're playing. They're going to be playing today also, I believe, for a chance to go to the state tournament for softball. So it's been a fantastic spring for us, and we're really hoping to keep it rolling this weekend.
Tell me about playing this first game out of the chute. Good thing, bad thing, no thing about, here we go. We're playing right away at 11:30.
We thought at first, gosh, of course we got the first game, but, we're a stone's throw away. It's a 45-minute trip up for us this morning. We get to sleep in our own beds. Bismarck, I think, had to probably come yesterday. They probably had, a little bit less rest than we did. We're feeling okay. We got hot days right now, so we're playing the early game. That's okay. We're going to stay out of some of that heat. We practiced in the morning the last 2 days just to be ready for this time period. And, at this point, I think we're just ready to play baseball. So
you get a sense they're a loose group, or did you notice anything different on the way up this morning?
No, I think we're pretty loose. We had a couple of guys catching some Z's on the way up here even. So, I don't think it's too big for us, being at this tournament last year and experiencing this and kind of knowing what to look out for. I don't think think we're going to be tight in any way. I think we're going to stay loose and still stay focused. But it's something that we've been talking about really since the first practice. This was what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been playing for, and we're ready to go.
You guys got to go hit batting practice here in a second, but I have to ask the captain obvious question: Is a quick start important in a game like this, or does it, with the kind of team you have? I know you don't want to get them like 4 or 5 runs, but is scoring the first run, is that a big thing in a game like this today?
I think scoring first is always important. I think any coach would probably tell you that getting on the board, seeing if you can get an early lead and really kind of get that off your shoulders a little bit, find a way to get on the board any way you can early on, especially in a big game like this, makes a huge difference. We got 3 guys that pitch, I think, probably about as well as anybody in the state. So we're going to start our big lefty today. And he's a special player, and we're going to rely on that. We're going to rely on our defense, but we like to be aggressive on the bases, and we're going to try to score early and often. And I think that just is a huge advantage in this game. Put the pressure on the other team and try to keep the pressure on. So that's the plan. We'll see how that works out for us.
I know you got to get to work. Thanks so much for doing this, especially so close to game time. Appreciate it, and good luck this morning. Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Dom. We appreciate it.
There he goes, Andy Lunsetter, head coach of the Wahpeton baseball team. The Huskies match up, as we mentioned, in that first game with Bismarck Legacy coming up at 11:30's time over at Young Field. The first of 4 games there today. And you know what? He probably makes a lot of sense, too. Playing that first game, it'll be warm, but it's not going to be like it is at 1:30 today, especially on that turf infield. That's going to get steamy, maybe the best way to describe. And they're playing with a ton of momentum. You saw the reaction there and the couple great shots the Wahpeton Daily News provided us after they won the championship on Saturday over West Fargo. And they did it the hard way. I mean, you went through and beat Cheyenne and beat West Fargo. Those are the 2 typical powerhouses in the EDC, at least. And, I mean, the east side of the state has owned Class A baseball, which is completely the opposite of a decade ago, where the West would just rip off state title after state title. The East has had it with, obviously, Cheyenne winning it the last 2 years. And if the bracket holds here with the East, you could have a Wahpeton-Cheyenne rematch tomorrow afternoon in that first semifinal. Mandan and North will play the first evening game tonight at 4:30 with West Fargo and Jamestown wrapping up action today at Young Field. So, busy day. Thankfully, at least we're going to play baseball, that we're not delayed by weather. It's just going to be awfully warm out there for the next couple days. So we appreciate Andy giving us a few minutes here. Literally, he told me last night, well, we got batting practice at 9:30. I'm like, all right, can you swing 9:20? Sure. So we appreciate him being flexible and coming on before they get ready for their game today against Legacy. We're due for a break. We'll come back. A Dalvin Cook update. It is June 1. The Vikings likely are going to make a move. Are they trading him? Are they cutting him? We'll dive into that. And UND now knows when they're playing Boise State. We'll get into that much more when Hot Mike returns after this.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way,
because your community
is our community.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's. The truth is, Parkinson's disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them. Worldwide, over 10 million people are living with Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement. And with so many places to search for information, it can be difficult to know where to begin. The Parkinson's Foundation has answers. Answers for everyone in the fight. We can help you understand the disease, help you find expert care, give you tips for living a better life, share the latest research, help you find local support, and there's a free helpline you can call. Find your answers and join us in the fight against Parkinson's. To learn more, please go to parkinson.org or call 1-800-4PD-INFO. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Overcoming drug addiction was difficult, but I found the path to recovery that worked for me. Treatment helped me come to terms with the issues in my life that caused me to use drugs. And I found better ways to cope. Learning I had a substance use disorder helped me realize I needed to make a change. The road to recovery is different for everyone. There were good days and bad days. But I found strength in seeking help. My friends and family made a huge difference in my recovery. I never gave up. I found my path, and I keep walking it every day. Find the path that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
There are places, people, and conditions in this world that almost seem beyond hope. But not when Mercy Ships is there. Mercy Ships is a place restoring sight to the blind, normalcy to the deformed, beauty and happiness to the outcast, and joy to the brokenhearted.
And many times, you could almost see the life coming back into them. Can't beat that.
Mercy Ships is the largest floating civilian hospital in the world, staffed with some of the most skilled volunteer medical professionals and crew. Mercy Ships is the reason why hope is now in sight for those who need it most. To learn more, go to mercyships.org today.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms.
Thank you.
Good.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike continues here on a Thursday morning. WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. We'll visit with Chris Howell, head pro at Moorhead Country Club, coming up at 10 o'clock to preview the Red River Amateur, which is returning at the end of the month. We'll get the details on that. Of course, you're going to see live coverage coming up on WDAY Extra of that later this month. Excited to bring that to you for the third consecutive year. We'll be on the telecast for golf. Pretty cool. Couple of football notes I wanted to get in today. We mentioned yesterday a fairly busy day for college football, as now game times are starting to be released in networks for the first 3 weeks of the college football season. It's been trickling out a little bit, drips. It all came out yesterday for the most part. I want to detail that in a second. But we've been talking about June 1 and the Vikings for the longest time. And now it's actually here. And why it's such a busy day, or a big day, potentially big day, is for, and I don't want to get into the minutia on this with NFL contracts, but it could potentially be a big day with Dalvin Cook's situation. Because the Vikings and all NFL teams can either release guys or designate them, a post-June 1 trade. And if that ends up happening, what comes off the cap, how much significant of a cap hit as it is. And we've known for a while that the Vikings have been trying to likely find a trade partner for Dalvin Cook. And now, does that happen today? Does that happen over the next couple days? I would imagine so. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reported this yesterday, that
The Vikings are still in the mindset of trying to trade him and looking for a potential trade partner. Nothing has come to fruition on that. Now, is there hope that he would go to maybe Miami, where he's from? I think there is some speculation on that. This is the dead cap hit. Starting, if they release him starting tomorrow, this year there would be $5.1 million in dead cap money. 2024 will be 3.1. Cap savings, if they release him, would be $9 million this year, $12.5 million for 2024. That's why this is being discussed. We talked about this when they signed Alexander Mattison, that they've already basically went with that Mattison is going to be their guy, the number one guy in 2023. And I mean, it's not like Dalvin's a bad player or he still can't play. I mean, there are still injury concerns there. He had the offseason shoulder surgery, as we know, that happened back in February. Jeremy Fowler reported it yesterday. He's still more likely to be traded than cut. So that's where we stand on it. I think even Pro Football Talk was writing about it yesterday. A trade remains very possible. It could happen by the end of the week once June 1 comes and goes, and the Vikings can split the 6.2 cap acceleration over 2 years. Again, $3.1 million in 2023, $3.1 million in 2024. I know we're getting into the weeds on this, and I might lose some people, but just know that this is likely going to happen. Pro Football Talk even says one team to watch continues to be the Dolphins. However, if another team is willing to take on the full salary, which is $10.4 million for this year, and the Dolphins aren't, another team could end up doing the deal. The question becomes whether someone else will take on the full salary, and if so, whether the next team will want to restructure the deal, converting most of the salary into a signing bonus that would be spread over the remaining 3 years of his contract, or possibly beyond through voidable years. I mean, the least likely of the outcome is Dalvin taking a significant pay cut, which you don't see that happening. And we talked about this yesterday. The whole reason why they are doing this is they have to, and I say have to, sign Justin Jefferson. They have to give him his monster money. I know K-Fan out of the Twin Cities reported yesterday that there could be something potentially in the next 48 hours was used on Jefferson News. I don't, if that's related, it has to be related to with Dalvin moving on. The Vikings don't have the cap space to give Jefferson a monster contract and still have Cook on the roster. So Dalvin was a good player for him. I mean, he was good. There's nothing, you can't say anything that he didn't perform. Yeah, he got banged up. Obviously, he lost his rookie season with the ACL injury. I think that they maximized what they got out of that position, and that's something that the running back position has clearly been devalued in the National Football League. Look at what the two teams that played for the Super Bowl in February, they did not have a A1 running back, right? Kansas City and Philly each had 3 guys that were out there at separate times. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round guy that the Chiefs found that turned him into a stud. Eagles had Boston Scott forever as Kenneth Gainwell, you know. I mean, they had guys there that they could, now they have Jamal Williams, you know. I mean, they had guys that they could find and turn into good players. Miles Sanders, you know, it's not like a guy that carries the ball 30 times a game anymore. That doesn't happen. That's why when Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman drafted him, I think even then, not that long ago, it was still a different era. And it's clearly how Zimmer wanted to play football is not what Kevin O'Connell wants to do at that spot. And like I mentioned, they've already put their eggs in the Alexander Mattison basket, so they're ready to move on. Now it's just a matter of, can they find a partner for him, or do they do what the Cardinals did and just outright release him like they did with DeAndre Hopkins? So something we are monitoring. Could happen as we're on the air, could happen later today or tomorrow. But Dalvin Cook, his time with the Minnesota Vikings has come to an end. We mentioned it when they disappeared from the Twitter header. When he was gone from that should have been for even people in the denial that this was going to happen. Lastly, before we wrap up this segment, we talked about it a little bit yesterday as the drip of college football schedule news started to come out. All the major conferences and networks paired up for their releases. It happens every year. We did this dance last year with North Dakota State and their game with Arizona that ended up being an FS1 game for a 10 p.m. Central Time kickoff. University of North Dakota has an FBS game this year, matching up with Boise State out of the Mountain West Conference. That was released yesterday because it's a Week 3 game for that September the 16th. UND will play at Boise State on September the 16th. The game will be on Fox Sports 1. First time in football history for UND. They get a game on FS1. More interesting, the game will be a 10 a.m. Mountain Time start, 11 a.m. Central. That's even early for Boise. Boise most often than not plays either late afternoon games or night games. I can't remember a ton, and I'm not a great Boise State mind, but more often than not, they're playing games in the evening at Boise. I'm just going to look quick here. I want to see their 2022 schedule. Hopefully they still have the game times. Yeah, so here's the game times last year for Boise. Home games. They play UT Martin. FCS team was a 3 o'clock Central Time start. San Diego State was a 7 o'clock game. Fresno, 8:45. Colorado State was 6 o'clock. BYU was 6 o'clock. Utah State was an 11 a.m. game. That was Thanksgiving weekend. That was Black Friday. So this is atypical for them to be playing that early in that window. I thought that was different. So, yeah, they did not do that last year. So something to note there. Also, something that I saw when the Mountain West released news yesterday for the opening week of the season, Labor Day weekend. And CBS is getting more games this year because, they're still doing the SEC. They also have deals with the Mountain West and the Big Ten. The Mountain West deal gave them some pretty decent games. And Labor Day weekend, Saturday night, September 2nd, the same day the Bison are playing Eastern Washington at U.S. Bank Stadium. That night in Laramie, Wyoming, on CBS, Texas Tech will play Wyoming. Craig Bohl's team will get on CBS to open up the 2023 football season. The Craigers got a couple of interesting games. That game to start, they play at Texas this season, does Wyoming. They also have a home game with App State. App State's not going to be chump change this year. So I thought that was intriguing that we're going to see the Wyoming Cowboys on national TV early in the season, a CBS game on September 2nd. Also, Labor Day, which typically there's been one FBS game on Labor Day, and that's the game on WDAY. And this year it's LSU and Florida State again that are going to play on Labor Day night. Now they have decided, the powers that be that have control over all this, to throw a couple more games on Labor Day. And I'm not people will watch this stuff because people watch football. Northwestern and Rutgers, great Big Ten rivalry game there, 11 a.m. on CBS on Labor Day Sunday, followed by Oregon State and San Jose State at 2:30 on CBS. And then the LSU Florida State game that night on WDAY. That first game, that Northwestern Rutgers game ought to be a humdinger, I guess. But college football is continuing to work its way around the NFL schedule. And clearly the NFL starts a week later. And this is part of a growing topic we've talked about over the last couple of years about their ability, knowing the NFL was going to expand, and now the college football playoff is going to expand, what they want to do with their schedule. Is week 0 going to become the new week 1? Are they going to start playing games that last weekend in August? I think that's still on the table. I think that's still a topic to discuss. Not right away. I think by 2026, 2027, we could be there, which could cause mass scheduling chaos everywhere. But it's something to keep an eye on. So, again, the college football season just finding different ways to get going. Also was confirmed yesterday, which we thought, that Nebraska-Minnesota game, Labor Day weekend as well, 2 days before the Bison play at U.S. Bank Stadium. Gophers-Huskers will be on Fox that August 31st, 7 o'clock on Fox. Minnesota plays its first 2 games at night. That game with North Carolina is going to be either an ESPN or ESPN2 game that's in Chapel Hill, which will be a heck of a challenge for the Gophers going up against maybe the number 1 or 2 pick in the NFL draft next year, Drake May, the quarterback from UNC. We're due for a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour 1. Get you ready for a busy second hour here on this Thursday morning. Hot Mic continues after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, and Inforum.com. We're back after this.
There ain't no other way to do it. You gotta get in there.
Our Savings Power Hour kicks off with Buffalo Chicken Cheeseburgers.
I know!
Then, what to buy and not buy at the bulk store.
You're gonna save at least 50%.
The smartest home buying and renting tips.
Is it foolish of me to rent? Should I look into buying my own home?
Girl, you knew who you were talking to, right?
And gas pump secrets revealed.
Buy gas on the most hated day of the week.
Mixed Rachel.
Weekdays at 3 on WDAY.
Tamron Hall is a hit, taking daytime talk by storm.
You get inspiration, you get hope, you get winning.
And on the next Tamron Hall, from dishwasher to owner. At just 18, she used her college savings to buy the restaurant she worked in. Plus, he's the big brother making good on a big promise to help his sibling become a movie star.
On the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
I'll bet joining Medicare probably isn't on your bucket list. Riding in a balloon, traveling the world, learning the tango, something more like that, right? But now that you need to choose a Medicare plan, even though it might not be exciting, it sure is important. That's why I chose Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota. Blue Cross is nonprofit, so instead of making shareholders wealthy, they focus on making you and me healthy. You should call or go online to get this free step-by-step guide to Medicare. It can help you understand your Medicare benefits and how Blue Cross gives you more value for your money. 96% of doctors and hospitals in Minnesota are in the Blue Cross network. So just about anywhere you go, you're covered. And just like me, almost half of Minnesota seniors have a Blue Cross Medicare plan. Maybe you're interested in a plan that combines medical and prescription coverage. Well, here's how Blue Cross has you covered there as well.
Blue Cross offers Medicare Advantage plans that include prescription drug coverage, $0 primary care doctor visits, and many other benefits. Some plans start at a $0 monthly plan premium. Plus, select plans include $0 copays on insulin and preferred generic medications. Blue Cross Medicare Advantage plans also provide extra perks at no extra cost. From dental, hearing, and vision benefits to Silver Sneakers fitness memberships, and even benefits for over-the-counter medications. To learn more about why Blue Cross is the best choice, call or go online now for your free copy of this informative step-by-step guide to Medicare. There's absolutely no obligation.
Blue Cross has been offering Medicare plans since 1965, when Medicare first started. They're all about keeping folks like you and me healthy, so we can keep doing things we like. Or tackle things from our bucket list.
Call or go online now. You and Blue, better together.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. He asked all his therapists to help him undertake some of the house chores. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
Wrapping up our first hour, again, a reminder, the NBA Finals begin tonight on WDAY. The Denver Nuggets have been off for about 2 weeks after they swept out the Lakers. Game 1 coming up tonight, 7:30 here on WDAY. First 2 games in Denver. Series then shifts to Miami for games 3 and 4. And then it's 1-1-1 after that. Game 5 in Denver, 6 in Miami, and Game 7 would be in Denver. The Nuggets are a 9-point favorite for tonight for Game 1. And again, as I mentioned, they've been off for 9 days. Meanwhile, Miami just won Game 7 on Monday. Flew out right after the game to adjust. I would expect Miami has won the opening game of each of its series. Oh, of course, the Heat are the number 8 seed, so they've won them all on the road. They won Game 1 against the Bucks. They won Game 1 against the Knicks, and they won Game 1 against the Celtics. The Nuggets have not lost at home yet. Denver is 8-0 in the NBA playoffs this season, so it's going to take something special. I don't see it happening tonight. I say, and I know this doesn't happen in sports, you know what? Let's get our legs underneath us, and then, we get a couple days off because they play tonight. You don't play Game 2 until Sunday. That let's save this up, and then let's go at it in Game 2 and try and get our split if you're Miami. I don't think Jimmy Butler thinks like that. It's the way he hasn't played this entire postseason, been a man possessed. And I think for the audience that is yet to see Nikola Jokic play, buckle up, because he is a treat to watch, and that should be just dynamite anyway. How long this series goes, we could be, the way Denver's rolling, this could be over in 5, but the way Miami has stuck it to teams, we could have a long series. Either way, I enjoy watching basketball. I'll watch, but that's not the audience that, the NBA is looking for the casual fan to watch as the series goes on. A short series doesn't do that. If you have a 6-7 game series, that gets people invested in it. If you're 2-2 after 4, like, all right, let's go. Same with hockey. Hockey fans are going to watch Vegas and Florida play. It's the average, clicker. Will they stop and watch either the NBA or the NHL? I'll be interested to see that. People are going to make, there are going to be stories abound about ratings and how it's going to work out. I just look for some good games. That's all you want this time of year. Just let's give us the best games. It's the finals. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll shift gears and chat some golf. Later this month, the Red River Amateur returns to Moorhead Country Club. Head pro Chris Howell will join us in studio to preview the event that's coming back here to WDAY Extra in just a few weeks. We start hour 2 right after this.
Midwest Kid Fest is Friday, June 9th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Island Park in Fargo, with the Teddy Bear Parade kicking off the event at 10:30 a.m. Midwest Kid Fest will feature live music and entertainment, including Penny and Pal's final show. Enjoy games, inflatables, a petting zoo, and new this year, a sensory-friendly area. All activities are free of charge. Midwest Kid Fest, Friday, June 9th. Find out more at fargoparks.com.
Send your weather-related photos or video to the WDAY Storm Tracker team. Contact weather@wday.com or share them with us on Facebook and Instagram. Keeping an eye on the sky. The WDAY Storm Tracker team.
I'm Tyne Morgan, host of U.S. Farm Report. Join me right here each weekend as we explore the news and issues that matter most to agriculture. We know each year farmers and ranchers are thrown challenges, but as agriculture continues to adapt, we are right there with you. From markets to weather, we take a deep dive into what matters most to agriculture and rural America.
Saturdays at 6 a.m.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
It's usually real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe, it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Thanks for buying a fishing license.
What the?
I know, but listen. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean so families can fish and swim, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
It also provides fishing education and activities for the kids, and funds long-term plans to protect our lakes and streams.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Did he?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot, because every dollar from a license purchase protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Learn more at takemefishing.org.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
My son had a full-blown asthma attack. It came out of nowhere.
The unsettling thing about some symptoms is you don't always know what's causing them.
He had a reaction triggered by cockroach allergens.
Threats to your health can come from unexpected places. Get the facts. Visit pestworld.org.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on a Thursday morning, first day of June 2023. We've mentioned off the top the busiest day on the North Dakota high school sports calendar. Why wouldn't it be 90 degrees today for everybody, whether they're playing tennis, soccer, on the turf at Davies, baseball or softball around the state? But excited about that. Highlights of all the sports coming up on our news tonight at 6 and at 10. It's also a pretty good golf day as well for those of us that follow. The Memorial tees off today. Fargo's Tom Hoagie in that event. We'll keep you posted on Tom's play after, I would say, probably a dissatisfying way he finished out at Colonial, tied in the 50s. Still looking to get into that top 30 again for the Tour Championship, which comes up at the end of August. At the end of this month, the Red River Amateur returns to Moorhead Country Club, and we are super excited to be broadcasting that for the third consecutive year. It'll be back on WDAY and WDAY Extra. Head pro at Moorhead Country Club, Chris Howell, joins us in studio. It's great to see you, man. How you been?
I've been great. Thanks for having me. Obviously busy.
I would imagine, right?
The weather's been fantastic for golf, so everybody's coming out of the woodwork to get their rounds in.
I said this off the top of the show. There's no intermediary here. We had 9 months of winter, and then we have like 9 straight days of 90,
Yeah, it's unusual May weather. At least we're in June now with 90, so it doesn't feel so crazy.
Yeah, we set a record. I saw at our newscast. We had 7 90-degree days in May, which is like the record.
Wow.
So for this part of the world.
We had snow on the ground in early May. I mean,
what day did you guys open up?
May. I should probably check my calendar on that. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's all right. Sorry to put you on the spot.
May 3rd.
Okay.
Which was actually a day earlier than last year. If you can
is that right?
Yep.
McCullough told me the same thing of what they did as well. I mean, they end up being very close about what they did, which is outrageous considering, the middle of April, we had schools closed around here because another blizzard.
Yeah.
If I would have told you that, you would open up a day earlier than you did last year, you'd never believe me, right?
Yeah, forever it was looking like mid-May was going to be opening date, and somehow the weather got warm.
Yeah.
The ground was in the right position to take moisture, and we got lucky to open that early.
It was how dry we were. I think people forget of how dry the fall was to set that up. So have people been ripping the doors off the hinges to get out and play?
They have. So I did a round count last night, and in the month of May, we did 4,700 rounds.
Holy cow.
So if that keeps up, we'll be
all right.
Yeah, we'll have a good season if that keeps up.
Holy cow. I mentioned off the top, the Red River Amateur is teeing off, starts June 23rd, just 3 weeks from tomorrow through the 25th. WDAY Extra will be your home for it. We'll televise all 3 rounds, Friday from noon to 3, Saturday noon to 5, and then Sunday noon to the conclusion of it. I remember covering the old days of what it used to be to now seeing it over the last couple of years of how this event has completely transformed. Has that surprised you to see what you guys, I know you guys put some money and some resources into this, but what has happened over the last couple of years of this event?
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
When I started, it was still the KX slash Bank of the West. It was always a good event. We had good area golfers. But then we lost sponsorship, rebranded with a new partner, and then when COVID hit, we didn't have it for a year.
Yeah.
And we had a group of members that wanted to form an actual committee, rename the event presented by whoever the premier sponsor was, and being able to have a committee that's pushing to raise money and do unique things really could help grow this event. So anytime you go from raising about $10,000 to $50,000, you can do some pretty great things.
Yeah.
So, and then Scott Sinner and Josh Rohrs are smart enough to think, we got something kind of unique. Why don't we put this on TV? And all that added stuff just creates almost a tour-like atmosphere out there for the players, which isn't anywhere else. I mean, there's a lot of great amateur events in the area, in the Pine to Palm, the Resorts. All those are fantastic events. We're the only true stroke play event, which is unique. And then 3 days of broadcast.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere else. It's pretty awesome.
What was I remember watching the first year we did it a couple of years ago, and that, of course, weather was a factor on that last day. But the feedback you got from the golfers about having the television cameras there, what did you hear back from that?
They loved it.
Yeah.
For some of them that are either high school kind of transitioning to college or college thinking about maybe turning it into a career someday, it gives them that atmosphere. The high school players, it gives them maybe a chance to be seen by a coach that wouldn't normally see them. They love that atmosphere. The only thing they continue to ask is maybe have the volume down on the Jumbotron at the alley. So it might be a little loud.
And then you got the wrong guy coming in this year because I'm doing the host play-by-play stuff, and everybody upstairs like, how are you going to do this? Because they know how loud I am. Like, I honestly, I watch golf. My wife will roll her eyes. I watch golf on TV all the time. So I love watching it. So I can do this. I have the right octave. I'm working on it. I'll be all right. Everybody wants to mute me anyway, so they've wanted to do that for 15 years since I've been here in town, so they can do that. But that to me is a really appealing part of of this and the unique part, like you talked about, of having an event like this be broadcast.
Yeah, and it's like everything else. We get a little better at what we do. Last year, the second year, the broadcast was better than the year before. Not that the first one was bad. It's just
we're learning
the
as
growth,
well.
and it's fantastic to see, and the stuff you learn. Like now there will be another TV or another truck out there, so we can cover some of the area where the broadcast didn't reach, which are cool holes that got missed before. So I'm really looking forward to that polished product.
The level of golfers, has that increased as well over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I would say the top tier player hasn't really gotten any better. I mean, you look at Van Holmgren won it twice.
Yeah.
He's playing on the Canadian Tour. He is a fantastic player.
Excellent former Bison, really good player.
Last year, Jack Dudek won it. He was NAIA runner-up. He's back again this year. So that top tier hasn't gotten any better, but the level or the amount of players of that caliber has gotten a lot deeper. So I would say in the past, we probably had 8 to a dozen guys that could truly win the event. And just kind of going through the roster, career profiles, like what they've done in high school, college, even some that are now beyond playing just amateur stuff. There's 25 to 30 guys that could win this event, which is
that's not bad.
Wild.
That's a wide open event. Is basically the way the right way to say it. So we're sitting here at June 1, so we're 3 weeks out. So it's too early. Is it too early to start worrying about weather? Just looking at the long range forecast, it's going to be hot, and it doesn't look like a whole lot of precipitation over at least the next week.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're in a pretty good spot. Course condition wise, greens are healthy, fairways are healthy. People are kind of praying at our course. I think that it dries out a little bit because the rough is long and thick and heavy. Personally, I'd like to see that rough continue to play that way through the championship, and then we can worry about what it's like afterwards. But it's in a really good spot to kind of handle anything that's coming.
Excited to see it. Now, can people still register to sign up?
Yes.
Is open,
there's still a few spots open. We got probably 6 or 7 maybe max that are available. You can do it right on Moorhead Country Club's website to go ahead and sign up.
So the fact that you have that many already in, you got to be over the moon then, that you have few spots available on June 1.
We are. We're, last year and the year before, we kind of capped out just under 120 was registration. We're over 160 right now.
Holy cow.
Numbers are fantastic. It's good to see a full field. Little headache, though, figuring out logistics for tee times when we're used to starting at 8 and being done at noon. We're going earlier and we're stopping later.
For the members, how have they treated this event? How have they, and over the last couple of years, especially to see how their course kind of gets taken over for a couple of weeks here?
There's a kind of a love-hate relationship, right? They we're split. A lot of members love the event, showcasing our club and facility. Gets us a lot of good promotion without having to do anything extra. At the same time, they don't necessarily always like giving up that first tee on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I was going to say on a Saturday morning, right?
Yeah,
that might
those
be
are
tough.
kind of premium times, but we've worked with them. We've kind of worked on clearing up our total events calendar to provide more access at different dates.
It's this time of year, and that's the thing. There's only so many times to be out there playing, but I think you got to trade it for, and I'm coming from a biased point of view, for what the tournament is and what it is meant to the area and what it can going forward. I think the sky could be the limit here with this kind of event.
Yeah, realistically, we're already kind of starting to see it grow regionally. But at the trajectory it's on, if we can keep gaining that high-level caliber player throughout the country, because it's now world amateur golf ranking points, so we're getting a few more people from areas you wouldn't even think of coming. Maybe it can be a national event that you're on Golf Channel, with the final scores being broadcast and maybe some unique stuff like that.
I'm glad you're here today because I watched the NCAA championships yesterday. We feature that in our What to Watch, which we do each day of what's the premium sporting things on, which is totally transformed over the last couple of years. That never used to be on TV, and I love that Golf Channel puts it on to see the college golfers going, and it was really good yesterday. Florida ended up winning it. How neat is that for a guy involved in youth golf as well to see that kind of attention for the sport that used to never be there?
The more publicity we can get, seeing college golfers, even mid-level pro golfers. Anything we can get on TV is nothing but good. Especially for us diehard junkies, right? We love watching any bit of golf, but it gives that young kid an opportunity like, well, maybe I want to play golf because they're actually showing that on TV too, not just basketball, not just football. Right. So, TV's good. Any press is good.
How did you handle the Michael Block story, seeing that as a head professional like yourself, to see what he did a couple weeks ago?
I think it was awesome. His personality was great for that. Not that it was his first time playing a major championship. You look at his resume, he's a pretty dang good player.
How often do you get a chance to play? With all the other duties you have, how many rounds a week do you even play?
So mine is probably 9 to 18 holes a week.
So not much. So not much.
No, a lot of that is more. I got a young family. Yeah. Two kids under 3 at home. So family obligations kind of take precedence over golf. So, I wouldn't say that's not that far off of what most are doing, though.
So the fact that he went and did that while he's still giving lessons, like yourself, I mean, and then to go and play with a Rory McIlroy, have a hole-in-one, and then just that, the whole thing was just what, for us in TV sports, you dream of. I mean, that was made for television a couple weeks ago. It was amazing.
It's Cinderella story. The only thing he didn't do was win it. Yeah, it's perfect.
And it's funny because I think, CBS, I think, got accused of this, that they made him a bigger story than Koepka winning it. Because if you didn't pay attention to it and flipped it on, you thought he was the winner, not Brooks Koepka, honestly, which I don't know if they did the right job of telling the story of it, but that was more people talked about Michael Block than they did Brooks Koepka, which I don't know if that's a live thing or whatever. That's a whole other story, but you know what I mean? It seemed to me a couple days after it.
To me, though, that's almost a bigger story.
It seemed it.
Because that's the equivalent of, I don't even know how you make it the equivalent. It's maybe a former high school basketball coach that somehow gets picked up in the D-League and somebody gets hurt, and now he's playing in the NBA Finals. I don't know. Like, it's wild for him to be playing at that level with his resume.
Well, and I love the fact that I know he got an invite to Colonial Exemption to go play there. I think the Canadian Open asked him to go. I mean, why not? Take advantage of the PGA Tour is smart. Take as much advantage of that and run as you can with a guy like that.
Yeah, it's not very often you get storylines like that. You have to do that.
For the golfers around here to see what Tom Hoagie has gone and done, Amy Olsen's heading back 6 months pregnant at the U.S. Women's Open. How big a deal is that, even for the young golfers you see out at MCC every day?
Yeah, it's a role model to look up to and see that I don't have to live in the Phoenix area or the Texas or the Florida area to actually make it someday. It's such a razor-thin margin to make it no matter where you're from, but just, there's one on each tour, on each big tour that we have. Fargo born and stayed here, playing on the PGA Tour and LPGA Tour and being very successful. It's not like they're, sneaking into a cut here and there.
Tom was in the Tour Championship last year. That's the top 30 in the world.
Yeah, he's been a top 50 player now for
a couple years now. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Amy's been top 50 in the world. It's very unique. They're the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and anywhere. Can happen from anywhere.
June is one of my favorite months for golf as well, because you've got the U.S. Open and the Women's Open. Both are being played in California, which is neat this year because the TV nerd in me, that means prime time golf.
Yes.
So I'm on board with that. Like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. Let's go. That to me, that's a cool deal. Both the Opens are going to have that this year.
I love that. I think it's probably easier. I don't know who's covering. I haven't paid enough attention to who has the coverage.
NBC has both of them, if I remember right.
You'd think from a logistical standpoint, too, with not having to lug equipment all over the place
right?
and everything.
They're okay with that, too.
Yeah. I like how you've seen more even go to, was it 2 years ago, they had both the men's and women's at the same golf course?
Yep.
I love that idea of having it all in one spot.
Yeah, they're going. The women are going to Pebble Beach, which they've never gone before, and the men, I think, are in L.A., Los Angeles Country Club, right? You know anything about that one?
I don't. You don't hear as much.
Yeah, I don't either. I heard that.
Pebble's always talked about it.
It's
iconic, and I think for a women's U.S. Open, it's the perfect venue.
Before I let you go, is there a player that you if you see on your phone or on television, you stop and say, I got to watch this, man or woman? Is there one or two right now that you say, I got to watch?
Used to be, we all stopped and watched Tiger, right?
Yeah.
He's still the needle mover. And as soon as he's healthy enough to play again, we'll all stop and watch.
Again.
Jordan Spieth is kind of one of those guys.
Yep. Good or bad.
Good or bad, right? Because he's going to hit it in spots you don't think a tour player is ever going to hit the golf ball. And then from that spot, he's going to hit a golf shot you didn't even know was possible and somehow make par. I used to love watching Dustin Johnson. Now that he's on LIV, you don't really get to see him anymore.
No.
Just kind of a unique way to play golf.
For me, it's Rahm and Finau. I love Tony. Tony Finau's just a great dude. He won the 3M Open here last summer. I love watching him. And Rahm just does things like how he won the Masters. Just I'm going to kick the you-know-what out of this golf course, and I don't care.
Yes.
And he went and did it, which was amazing.
Yeah, you look at what he's kind of doing this year. You hate to compare anybody to Tiger because it's unfair to both of them.
But he's
doing? Having a Tiger-esque year this year. He really is.
It's just crazy. And he's still there's 2 more majors to go.
There are.
Who knows what could happen
game
there.
Suits all of them.
How many holes in one have you ever had?
I've got 0.
What? Are you kidding?
I've got 0. And I got a funny story about that. Actually, this year, I'm out playing with some members that have their daily game at noon, and I join them on the back 9.
Nice.
And we get to hole 14. It's our long par 4 over the water, or par 3 over the water, sorry. I hit one close. Another guy hits one closer, and the third guy makes it. And as we're going up to the green, we're talking. That was Ken's 4th hole in 1. George in the group had 5. Ralph had hit 7. Ron had hit 3.
Oh, my
and
God.
Kevin had hit, I think, 3 as well. And I'm looking at these guys are averaging about 4 hole-in-ones per career, and I've got the big old goose egg. And then 3 days later, one of those guys actually hit a hole-in-one again.
Oh, my God. That's wild.
It is.
That is insane. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I thought it was just a slam dunk, You're
No, unfortunately not. I know I'm due, right?
That was my next point. I mean, one's got to be coming here sometime soon.
Worst case scenario, I'm calling McCullough up and asking him if I can just have access to Elzago by myself for a day.
Oh, man. Thanks so much for coming by. Look forward to working with you here over the next couple of weeks and getting ready for what's going to be a great 3 days here at the end of the month.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Chris Howell, head pro at Moorhead Country Club, stopping by. Again, the River Amateur Championship begins June 23rd. You'll see all of it on WDAY Extra. Will be on the air from noon to 3 on Friday the 23rd, then noon to 5 on Saturday the 24th, and then we hit the air at noon on Sunday for the final round to wrap up what should be a great 3 days at MCC. We'll do for a break. Hot Mike, we'll take one now. Back after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com.
Who let the dogs out? Laney's has, and the 2-for-deal special is back. If your furnace and air conditioner are over 10 years old, it's possible they've gone to the dogs. They're more prone to roll over and break down, and they're also a lot less efficient. Let Laney's help you fetch a free air conditioner with their 2-for-deal. For a limited time, when you purchase a qualifying Coleman high-efficiency furnace, you will receive a Coleman air conditioning unit free. Call Laney's for details. The dog days of summer will be here before you know it.
828 is just great.
Midwest Kid Fest is Friday, June 9th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Island Park in Fargo, with the Teddy Bear Parade kicking off the event at 10:30 a.m. Midwest Kid Fest will feature live music and entertainment, including Penny and Pal's final show. Enjoy games, inflatables, a petting zoo, and new this year, a sensory-friendly area. All activities are free of charge. Midwest Kid Fest, Friday, June 9th. Find out more at fargoparks.com.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
The end of hunger and poverty starts here. Your gift of an animal from Heifer International can help a family with food and income, all while caring for the earth. Heifer International. Learn more at heifer.org.
For children fighting critical illness, we can make the stars align. Because when we come together, hope and joy will shine. Help us make every wish come true.
I'm Naheem Hines. I support the Muscular Dystrophy Association because they help my mom and kids like Ethan.
Thanks to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and people like you, I have more hope than ever before.
Join us and learn more at mda.org today.
Federal investigators blame human error for a deadly natural gas explosion.
We all remember where we were that morning.
We could actually see the smoke from our farm here, which is close to 20 miles away.
I started to pull right off the bat. Both tractors just kind of started to spin out, and those are big tractors. So I knew something wasn't right. Out of nowhere, I just heard a big boom. The tile plow ruptured into the pipeline. Once the gas got through the intakes of the tractors is when it ignited. As soon as I heard that boom, I started running as fast as I could. The ground literally started erupting from my feet.
They were highly respected and they were good at what they did. It was one of those accidents that, when it was done, made people step back and pause. If an accident can happen to them, it can happen to anyone.
Watch the rest of the story at 3secondslater.org. And remember, Farm Safe starts by contacting 811.
Here it is. Look how cheap it is.
Go for it, Steph. Be careful what you buy online.
It's finally here.
Counterfeit products are illegal. They are fake and can be damaging to you, your property, and your wallet.
Go, 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 go!
It looks real, but I don't have a good feeling about this.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! No, get out!
Go. Buying fake products can cost you the health of your face, skin, and eyes, or scar you for life. Real products are tested for safety. Buy the brand. Protect yourself. This message is brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
You're smart. Buy smart.
Go for real.
Go for real. Go for real.
Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Chris Howell for joining us. Head pro at Moorhead Country Club. Excited for yet another live sporting event that we're going to be bringing you. I think we will run the gamut here on almost everything. Like bowling and yachting is like the only couple things we haven't done. And there's not much yachting we can do around here. So, because we've done track, softball, baseball. We've done the other, football, handled that. Volleyball, wrestling, soccer, basketball, chess, maybe. I mean, the Olympics are doing all sorts of different things now. Ballroom dancing. We used to do bowling on WDAY. I did that. The old WDAY Bowling Classic. I did a couple of those. We're talking about the 70-year history of this building, the station. Us being on the air. We used to televise bowling every other year. It was us at WDAZ. I remember we did that. So we've done that before. Nothing to say we couldn't do that again. Now we got golf on board. It's pretty cool. For a station our size, be doing all that. I challenge, go find somebody else doing that with how big we are. Ain't happening, folks. A couple emails come in. I want to get to these before we break. Dave Cresap coming up here in about 10 minutes. Dom, on Grant Nelson, when he transfers, it seems to me Grant is under some additional significant pressure to perform in order to simply maintain his current draft projection. Seems to me he has nowhere to go but down. His testing numbers are great and all that, but as we figured out, testing doesn't mean in the NBA Combine what it does in the NFL Combine. I think he might actually need to be a minimum all-conference or all-American performer to be a first-round or early second-round pick next year, because there'll be guys emerging next season, just like Grant did this year, that we are not talking about now. Appreciate the email into the show. I think that's a good point. Does he need to be all-American? I don't know about that. We were talking about this at the station yesterday about the risk you run on not going back to your current school, because there were a host of guys, as we expected, from like 7 o'clock on. My Twitter timeline was filled with announcements of guys that decided to return to school and were going back to their original school because these are Power 5 players. These are guys that are already at Power 5 locations, not like Grant Nelson, who is looking at 4 or 5 schools that are all in the upper echelon of Division I college basketball. But on the flip side, if he were to return to North Dakota State, he knows he's the man. He knows the ball's going to go through him. The offense is going to go through him. And very few in this league can stop him. All fair points. But is he going to get better here? You know, Dave Richmond will always schedule. They'll have a couple of Power 5 games, just like they did this year. They played Kansas and Arkansas. I'm sure maybe not to that level this upcoming year. I think Dave admitted it on our show that he would not schedule like that probably again with the youth he had on his team. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Buys are going to play a Pac-12 school or an SEC school or a Big Ten school next season. I think that's probably a safe bet. But Grant going up against the likes of Denver, Omaha, South Dakota, St. Thomas. I can't pick out Western anymore. UND. Is he going to get ready for the NBA? The answer to that is no. It's just not. That's what I'm sure the scouts told him and his representatives at the Combine, that, okay, you've got some pieces here. You need another year of seasoning and not in the Summit League. So, yeah, it's a risk that you're going to take of going and playing against SEC, Big 12, Big 10 guys and maybe get exposed. But you have the better chance of getting better and then having a chance then this time next year that we're talking about you as a late first round, early second round guy. I think there's more upside to that than going back here, dominating, averaging 20 and 15 in the Summit League, as opposed to maybe being 13 and 8 in the SEC, but honing your skills and improving what the NBA says you need to improve on against guys that are really, really good. And I'm not trying to slight the Summit League here, but you're not facing elite level guys. It's just fact. You might get a couple of those premier games, but not on a night-to-night basis like if you are in the Big 10, the Big 12, ACC, SEC, something like that. Just not happening. That's why he's going to do it. So, yeah, it's a calculated gamble. It's a risk. But it for him, this is one worth taking. Knowing that the NBA potential of being drafted was going to be minimal for later this month now, that why not go and test your waters here? And by the way, I'm ignoring the biggest part about it, the money. He's going to get 6 figures, okay? So regardless of all the basketball stuff, which is important, the money is number one. We're talking $500,000. Wouldn't surprise me. Or upwards, okay? I know it's monopoly stuff, but that's what we're talking about. We'll break here. We'll come back. Legendary Perham boys basketball coach, now I could say former Perham boys basketball coach, Dave Cresap will join us about leaving the high school game and heading to the college ranks. We'll discuss that when Hot Mike returns after this.
You and I communicate very well. We know each other's signs. The only thing I haven't figured out is when you're trying to talk to me while you're brushing your teeth.
Next live, Amanda Seyfried from The Crowded Room, plus ABC's Jennifer Ashton, and Live's Foodfluencer Friday.
It's like Lincoln's address. Stay
out of it.
Weekdays at 9 a.m.
Cameron Hall is a hit, taking daytime talk by storm.
You get inspiration, you get hope, you get winning.
And on the next Cameron Hall, from dishwasher to owner. At just 18, she used her college savings to buy the restaurant she worked in. Plus, he's the big brother making good on a big promise to help his sibling become a movie star.
On the next Cameron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
For 70 years, you've invited us into your homes as the most trusted source for news in the region.
That's why we continue to work so hard to keep you informed, providing more news today to more people than ever before.
We're the longest operating locally owned news station in the region.
And that's all thanks to you.
Thank you for making us the most trusted. Your voice for 70 years.
The news leader, WDAY News.
Autism is a common but such a heterogeneous, such a complex condition that describes many different individuals with different types of symptoms and different types of challenges. As a physician, I had so many questions, and unfortunately, when patients would come to me, I couldn't really give them a lot of answers. As a geneticist as well, I started to appreciate that at least for some individuals with autism, there was an underlying genetic basis, and that we could really start to understand in a much more precise way what was going on for them by understanding the genes, how it affects the brain, how it affects behavior, and how it affects other parts of the body as well. When we think about how many people we need to answer the hundreds of questions that we all have about autism, we start to need tens of thousands of individuals that have the same types of symptoms to be able to answer those questions. Join us today. Go to sparkforautism.org.
You got lots of money over here.
I want to go for it. So do I. Let's do it.
You bet your life. Give me the money. All righty. $5,000.
Boosting the economy.
You seriously asking me this question, Jay? Coney Island. What are we doing over here?
Every weekday.
Yeah, give me that money. Oh, yeah. I'm going to give it to you like an Italian uncle. Here you go. You get yourself a little something there. There you go. Right there.
Weekdays at 3:30 p.m.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job, for the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on here Thursday morning. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, Inforum.com. Great sports Thursday on tap. We got a ton going on. We'll talk all about that before we go here on this Thursday. I got the email about our next guest here, and I had to look at it twice. I'm like, what? No way. And I'm sure for people around our area, they had the same reaction I did. And, of course, we talked about it, that Dave Cresap was stepping down as head coach at Perham after 28 years. I got an email in I got to read before we bring him on. To Dom, I had Dave as my 7th grade teacher way back when he taught and coached in Walhalla. He's even a better teacher than he is a coach. I've often wondered if that gets overlooked and overshadowed by his coaching successes. As we bring on the legendary Hall of Famer Dave Cresap, now the new basketball coach at MSCTC in Fergus Falls. So when I say that, what's your reaction when you hear that?
That is really, I got goosebumps all over my body when you read that. It's something special because I have to be honest, I am a basketball coach, really, really deep at heart, but I really love the classroom. That's my pride and joy. And that was really tough when I had to go tell Mitch Anderson that I was stepping away from the classroom. That was about as hard as the coaching part because I took a lot of pride in that. And on a daily basis, I tried to do my best.
Well, tell us how this all came about. I mean, you are ensconced, Perham and you are together. That's no way that's ever going to change. So how did this come about with, was there a desire for college basketball to do that for you?
Well, there was a little bit about 5 years ago, Dom. M-State had reached out a little bit and asked if I'd be interested. I went through the whole process, and they kind of offered me the job then. But with teaching, I could not break away and do both teaching and coaching over there. And leaving this program at that time was not the right time. But just a few weeks ago, I said to myself, is it time to retire from the classroom? Because after 37 years teaching, I said it might be time to leave that. So I made that choice to leave, and I announced the retirement. And within a little bit, all of the things started falling in place. Boy, it was crazy. And Jason Retzloff over at M-State and I talked, and Dave Roberts over at M-State. We had a kind of an informal type interview on Zoom, and they asked me a lot of questions about it, if I was really serious, because I think the big thing is they wanted to know if I was serious about it. Yeah. And within a little bit, they offered me the job, and it fell into place that this was the right time, the right opportunity. And like I mentioned to you earlier off the air, I said, you know what, there's a lot of people in the United States and throughout Minnesota I owe so much to for the career that I've had. I mean, you can never do something like this, the career I had in teaching and coaching, without a lot of people around you. And Dave Retzloff, I paid for him back in the 78 through 80 at M-State. Legendary, a great guy. And I just felt right now it was a good time to pay it forward a little bit, give back to some people. And I'm going to continue to give back to all the young coaches out there if I can help them in any way. I hope they reach out and ask me questions or things I can help them with. I'm here to help.
How difficult was the conversation to have with your team that you were going to be done?
Well, that one we didn't even get to, Dom. That's the hardest part right now, because all of the athletes were all busy.
Yeah.
They were all playing sports in the spring, and I feel really, really empty inside about that part a little bit. Because they're going to hear it on social media before I could talk to them. But I think Aaron Anderson and Mitch Anderson did a great job with it at the school. And I'm going to continue to reach out to those guys. But that was the hardest part right there, not being able to do it live in person and tell them. But I'll get some way to connect with them and do it right so they understand.
We were visiting off air, and I'll ask you, is your phone like smoking? Like, I'm sure when I put the tweet out, I heard from 20 or 30 people just totally unprompted about great guy. Just it goes together. Nate Stoll, one of your great friends at Hawley, said the Heart of Lake sideline is going to look awfully different next year. Just describe the outpouring that it's been over the last 10 days.
It's been the most amazing thing of my whole life, Dom. It was at least 2,500 different people reached out in different ways, through email, through text, on Twitter, phone calls. And yesterday I got a good one from a player back in 85, 86 from Perham, North Dakota, wrote me a long note and what an influence I had on his career. And boy, oh boy, did that hit home. So it's been a great outpouring of support. Yes, it is difficult. It still is today. I had my sister here watching me out with my hip, Dom, last week, and I couldn't stop crying. And it was just emotional day, roller coaster up and down, because I've got so many great memories of Perham, and the people of Perham and the community have been supportive of me throughout, even good days and bad times, So I had an emotional roller coaster, but the people have been fantastic.
I should mention that the guy's gutting it out for us today. He had staples taken out of his hip about like an hour ago, and you're on the air with us today.
Well, it's getting better. I got a big therapy appointment this afternoon at 3:00 that probably could floor me, because the first one almost made me pass out. I couldn't even hardly stand up after, but the hip's getting better. I need to get out and get active again. But no, I would do anything for Dom Izzo. So I'm on here. I'm on here for Dom because
I appreciate that.
What you've done for me, Dom, you don't even realize, and many people don't.
Well, I'm just doing my job, my man. That's all I'm doing here. I have to ask the obvious question then. Outside of 2011, because that one will be number one, what else, though, comes to mind when I say top memory, top game at Perham over nearly the last 3 decades? I know that's thousands of games to pick from, but is there a couple that stand out outside of 2011?
Well, the 2011, of course, would be memory number one.
Yeah.
Number two, probably on my list, would be our team where we were 28-0 and we got COVID year, and it got pulled away from us, and I had to go in and tell some young men that we weren't going to be able to play at that championship game. That was the one that really, really stuck out on me. And you go back to 2011, the Zach Gabbard incident was a very emotional thing for all of us. It's a memory that, you remember, but you don't want to remember in a way. And so that would be good. But I think the number one thing, even besides those things, Dom, would be the relationships I've built with players. Those memories, and hopefully they feel the same way as I do somewhere down the stretch. We meet again and we can share a lot of memories together. So, and then I'd say coaching my two sons in a state tournament would be pretty special in my career, and both of them making a state. So, and then the longevity of my coaching staff, now, the loyalty that, these guys had. And, Brent Hansen at 20 years retired this year. Brian Schwantz retired this year after 28 years with me. But I got big news to announce, Don. Brian Schwantz is following me and be my lead assistant at M State. So
nice.
I talked him into it. And this morning we got it all okayed. He signed the dotted line, and we're going to go over there together and tackle this and have some fun with it.
Now, see, the conspiracy theorist in me said, okay, Minnesota shot clock is coming in next year. Cresap wants out. He doesn't want any part of running a shot clock offense. What do you make of that?
Well, you know what, Dom, the last few years, you look at our stats, we averaged quite a few points. We didn't even hold the ball like we did in 2011. So, yeah, people have been ribbing me about that the last 2 weeks here, whatever this is now. And I think it's going to be a fun challenge. And I had already planned for the high school. I had our team offense and stuff ready to go for the shot clock. And I've been working on that for years, but had never had to use it much. But we played with it 4 times last summer, Dom, and we had 1 violation. So we've changed a little bit. This old fart has changed a little bit over time.
What are you most excited about coaching the college game? What has got you most jazzed up about tackling at the next level now?
Well, the jazzed up part is building that relationship with a kid that might only be there 1 or 2 years. The kid that might be there 1 year. Building that relationship has to be done in a different way because you only have them for a short time. And a lot of these kids need some guidance along the way when they're coming over to the junior college ranks. So that would be one thing. But the thing I'm scared about is the recruiting is all new to me. I mean, I got a lot to learn, and I'm not going to try to hide it from anybody. I'm going to just be myself and try to promote my passion and love for the game and get the M State really going again, because I'm following Ted Critchley, who did it last year and did an outstanding job and set the tone to get this thing back on the map at a high level. So everything's kind of in place over there that way. We just got to pick up a few more recruits. So if anybody's looking to play, we're ready to listen. So we're ready. And we've got a few spots left on our roster. But that number one would be the relationship thing I want to build. And then number 2 is the scariest part would be the recruiting and getting used to doing that.
Before I let you go, what has been the biggest area you've seen how basketball has gotten better in this part of the world, especially in Northwest Minnesota? Where have you seen the biggest gains over the last 3 decades?
Well, since I started in 95 till today, Don, the biggest thing is the athleticism of the athletes. I think they're having a lot more opportunities to become a better athlete. They're better off the dribble. They're harder to contain. We used to play all that on the line, up the line, pressure defense to get in people's face. We can't do that anymore. We have to go to more of a gap defense to keep them in front of us. And then I've seen the coaches in our area, especially in our HO1 and Section 8 AA, are outstanding coaches. They put in a lot of times. Back in the early days, I think we were able to really, I would be honest, outwork a lot of people and do things that a lot of people didn't want to do. And we still do it today, and I'm going to still do it at M State. But, there's some good coaches around, and I've gained so many friendships that, like you mentioned, Nate Stoll, what an outstanding man. I can't say enough good words about him. And a lot of my old colleagues that have left,
Yeah.
I got Mike Clark at DGF still, but another good friend and another great coach. But a lot of these have changed over. So it's a lot of new coaches, and they're good, and they're willing to work for their programs. And I just want to commend all of them too.
All right, now I'm going to put you on the hot spot before I let you go. Who was the toughest guy to try and put a defense on in your high school in Minnesota? Who's number one? I'm like, boy, we had no answer for this guy.
Oh, what mean the teams we played, or just in our section of conference?
Yeah, who comes to mind for when you were coaching at Perham, who's like, we had no answer to stop this guy.
Jalen Suggs. Yeah, I mean, we had no answer to him.
He's all right.
Chet Holmgren?
He was all right, too. Yeah, he's all right.
We probably didn't have the size, and we probably didn't quite have the athleticism at that time, Dom. So I would have to say they'd rate up there pretty high.
Man.
But you know what? Good about that, Dom, is our kids got an opportunity to play against that talent.
I mentioned that when the news came in. I'm like, you guys always play. You never shied away from playing anybody. I know you made a state, so you had the chance to play Minnehaha, but even in regular season, you would go to Target Center. You go all over to play teams.
Yep, we still will. We did it all the way up to last year, and still with 22 wins, and I think they'll continue a little bit. They might change a little bit with a new coach. They might want to scale it down a little bit, but I just got that feeling that if you play the best, and you see where you measure out, you got a chance to go a little farther in the playoffs.
You do you get first right of refusal here on who they hired? Are they going to consult you on this, or what's the deal?
I think they just kicked me out the door now. I think I'm gone. I don't know. I hope they remember me a little bit. But
there's no doubt
I'll
about
do
that.
anything for Perham High School forever. They were loyal. Aaron Anderson, Mitch Anderson, my coaching staff, the players. I would do anything for them, no matter where I'm at, and they got to know that. But yeah, right now they're kind of figuring it out. I think it's going to be a tougher thing than they thought. And they're going to figure things out, and hopefully they can pick out the right guy that will continue our tradition. And I want that new coach just to be himself. They don't have to look at what was done before. No, that's not. Be themselves and lead that program to success. And I'll be right there supporting them.
Great to catch up. Congratulations. Go rest that hip of yours, and we'll talk again sometime this summer. Okay.
Well, I hope we can. I hope I can stay in touch with you, and
Absolutely.
You keep us in mind at M State. And just know, again, you don't like hearing it, but you're a good man. You do a great job at what you do, and people throughout our area are very lucky to have you at WDAY.
I appreciate it, bud. Thanks so much, and have a good summer, all right?
All right, thanks a lot.
There he goes. Dave Cresap, now the new men's basketball coach at M State, MSCTC out in Fergus Falls after 28 years at Perham, 660 wins, the 2011 state championship. Pretty good resume there, and we appreciate his time here this morning. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll get you ready for a loaded Sports Thursday that begins in about 10 minutes. We'll do that with Hot Mic Raps right after this.
I've been a GH fan my entire life.
I love the Tam fam.
I still think about the time I was at Port Charles. I don't believe it.
But you can believe our shows are on back to back.
GH fans and the Tam fam love a good story.
Weekdays at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m.
I've been doing this for a long time. Somebody has to stand up for victims.
Detective Stabler, my partner, Detective Benson.
The world is changing. It took a lot of courage to get up on that stand. There's no stigma in coming forward. Please help me stop him.
He's not gonna ever be able to hurt you again.
I promise you,
I'll protect you.
I'm not gonna stop until we find this guy.
Weekdays at 12 p.m.
This is a murder mystery of epic proportions.
You get this picture of a jealous guy, thinks she's got a lover, and bang, she's dead.
What possessed you to do that?
Could this be a murder for hire?
When you've got something that was this bad,
somebody's got to pay.
Dateline. Weekdays at 1 p.m.
In this job, you take your eye off it for 1 second. People can die.
Go now!
Don't think. Just do it.
We're gonna get her out.
Here we go.
Hey, slow breath.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter. You did a great thing today. It's all because of you.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. and 12:05 a.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way,
because your community
is our community.
When you or a loved one is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it can be tough to know where to turn.
but the Alzheimer's Foundation of America is here for you. We've helped tens of thousands of people through our 7-day-a-week helpline, connected communities nationwide with information and support through our Educating America tour, and our telephone-based support groups meet weekly, providing assistance and support to families. We do it all because of one thing, you. Join us in the fight against Alzheimer's and donate today. alzfdn.org or call 866-232-8484.
We don't have time for this! Insanity!
911, what's your emergency?
If alcohol builds a wall around you that doesn't let you see where you're going, that keeps you feeling isolated and alone, that makes you feel hopeless, know this. We're here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a way out. For more information, visit aa.org and download the Meeting Guide app.
All right. We've come to the end of the road for today. As we mentioned, one of the busier days on the sporting calendar. Excited about what we got coming up on tap. Mentioned the Class A baseball tournament begins here in about a half hour out in West Fargo, along with the Class B in Minot. Be a long day on the diamond there. Softball, Class B is in Minot. Class A is going to be up at North Dakota State. We're excited about that up at Therrelton Park, the Class A softball tournament getting underway. That'll be a great venue. It has been since they have used it starting, I think, in 2019, I think was the first year when Class B went there. And you had huge crowds for Kindred and Central Cass. It'll be packed up there over the next 3 days as well. Soccer happening at Fargo Davies and tennis going on in Grand Forks. So it is busy days coming here over the next little bit. And that's not it. I mean, you got Minnesota section baseball, section softball happening. Saw last night the Spud lacrosse teams were able to advance in both boys and girls section play. That program has only been around now for, 3 years? And they've already had that kind of success. That's pretty impressive. 4 years now, and they've had that kind of success. It's fun to see for a young sport like that they've gotten that good in that short amount of time. So congrats to them. Yeah, with that being said, let's do What to Watch. Wow, we got a fancy open for it now. Thanks, Matt Hopper, on that. All right, here we go. Twins back home tonight as they'll take on the Cleveland Guardians, opening up a 4-game set. Is this the last game on Bally Sports North? It very well could be. Again, with the judge's decision likely happening today. The headline goes, decision expected today on the Twins in the MLB lawsuit involving Bally Sports. So this could be the last time they're on Bally Sports North. They play the Guardians. I'm not saying they're not going to be on TV after this, but they're not going to be on Bally likely after this because the next 2 games, it's Apple TV tomorrow and then Fox on Saturday. So by the time Sunday comes around, I don't know where the hell you're going to find them. I'm just going to tell you that right now. They'll be on. I just don't know where. We got Game 1, Heat Nuggets coming up tonight on WDAY, 7:30. How about that? They moved up the start times. It used to be 8 o'clock for the NBA Finals Central, which I know for our friends in the Eastern time zone stunk. Now they're moving up to 7:30 for Game 1 tonight on Channel 6. And in just a couple minutes, Alabama and Tennessee at the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. Kindred's Abby Ducher will make some North Dakota sports history today as part of that Alabama team. That's on ESPN. We got to go. Thanks to Andy Lunsetter, Chris Howell, and Dave Cresap for joining us. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Stay cool, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mike.
Tamron Hall is a hit, taking daytime talk by storm.
You get inspiration, you get hope, you get winning.
And on the next Tamron Hall, from dishwasher to owner. At just 18, she used her college savings to buy the restaurant she worked in. Plus, he's the big brother making good on a big promise to help his sibling become a movie star.
On the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Send your weather-related photos or video to the WDAY Storm Tracker team. Contact weather@wday.com or share them with us on Facebook and Instagram. Keeping an eye on the sky. The WDAY Storm Tracker team.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will.
Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now.
Happy Thursday. I look outside in Detroit Lake. Some beautiful blue skies out there once again today. It's going to be another warm start to another warm day. Temperatures pretty similar to how they have been all week, and the forecast is pretty much the same too. An isolated rumble or two later on throughout the day today, and then we'll take a look at the weekend forecast, which looks pretty similar to how this week has been. It's all coming up on WDAY News at 11. That starts right now.
Now at